Hello. If you visited before, thanks for coming back. If you're new here, welcome. Check out my channel intro to get acquainted. My name is Pierre-Antoine, and today we're going to cover the basics of sanitation. We'll cover general guidelines for sanitation and also some specifics like specialized equipment cleaning and chemical concentrations. Let's start with washing, the most important step in all of sanitation. The basics of washing utensils, dishes, and food contact surfaces are all the same. There are 5 steps used for proper washing: scraping, washing, rinsing, sanitizing, and air drying. Depending on the setup in your restaurant or production facility, you'll either use a dishwashing machine or a 3-sink setup. If you don't have the luxury of a machine, then you will need a 3-sink setup. Your first sink should be used for washing, your second for rinsing, and your third for sanitizing. Now let's look at each of those 5 steps in more detail. The first step is scraping any big residue off of what you're cleaning. After that comes washing. For things that can be moved, it can be done in a dishwasher or in the first sink of a 3-sink setup. If you use a dishwashing machine, it should have a readable thermometer and should read at least 150 degrees Fahrenheit during the washing cycle. If you use a sink, you should have a reading of at least 85 degrees Fahrenheit for the soapy water that you use to wash. Next comes the rinsing. Obviously, if you have a machine, then the dishwasher itself will do the rinsing, but you have to make sure that the temperature reaches at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit during this step. In a 3-sink setup, you should use the second sink to do the rinsing, and that sink should only have hot water in it. Then you have to sanitize. This can be done with water only, but the temperature needs to be at least 170 degrees Fahrenheit, so that can only realistically be done in a dishwashing machine. For a 3-sink setup, your third sink will need some kind of sanitizer solution. The temperature of the water that you use for the sanitizer will need to be adjusted depending on the sanitizer to make sure it's most efficient. For example, for quaternary ammonium sanitizers, which are very common in the industry, the ideal working temperature is 65 degrees to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Finally, after sanitizing, you'll need to air dry the things that you cleaned. Now, washing stations should have a space reserved for that, with sometimes racks to put the clean things on. So that's the general setup for a washing station. The same steps apply to all the food contact surface cleaning, like tables and counters and carts. Now, you can't put those in the dishwasher or the sink, but you can still apply the same 5 steps of scraping, washing, rinsing, sanitizing, and air drying. For specialized equipment, the same steps apply, but sometimes you'll have a special chemical that you need to use, depending on what you are cleaning. Equipment manuals or directions from the manufacturer can help you determine what you need to do exactly to wash a mixer, a fryer, a conveyor belt, an extruder, whatever you need to wash. Now, sanitation in any restaurant or production facility will need to use some chemicals. First, you need to make sure that you have a list of approved chemicals to use for sanitation, and also keep them in a secure place, locked if possible. And remember, you should never store an unapproved chemical. Next, you'll need to consider the concentration of chemicals that you're using. You'll want to check with your cleaning product supplier to determine the concentrations of all the products that you're using. It's common for cleaning product suppliers to provide dispensers that adjust the chemical concentration to a safe level by mixing water with the cleaning chemical. Always be sure to check the concentration if you can. For example, quaternary ammonium compounds that I mentioned earlier can be tested with a test strip that changes color depending on concentration. Sanitizer is especially important to have at the right concentration. Too low and the job won't get done. And if the concentration is too high, the sanitizer can be dangerous, because you don't actually rinse off after the sanitizer. You just air dry. Your final consideration when talking about sanitation is how often and when things need to be cleaned. For food contact surfaces and utensils and dishes, the general guidelines are to wash between tasks involving different products or ingredients. If your food includes allergens, food contact surfaces should always be cleaned after the use of the allergen. Allergen handling is a very important topic, and I'll discuss a little bit more about that in another video. Otherwise, cleaning should be done when it makes sense. To give you an idea, that means at the end of shift, at the end of day, between production lots if you're in a production facility, and maybe once a week for certain equipment. So to wrap things up, we talked about general procedures for sanitation, what a washing station should look like with a dishwasher or a 3-sink setup, how you should manage the various chemicals that you use for sanitation, and the frequency of the various sanitation tasks. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.